using the clone stamp tool to make repairs. We use the clone stamp tool to fix imperfections in an image. It's one of many tools Photoshop offers us. So the clone stamp tool, let's find it. I'm going to navigate over to tools. I'm going to view my tools 2 up. I like to look at them that way better. I'm more familiar with that arrangement. So here's the clone stamp tool. It's grouped with the pattern stamp tool that we'll talk about later. The clone stamp tool is a really neat way to copy a pixel selection in an image and then paste it in another area to cover something. So we're collecting a sample and then we're applying the sample. Let's go ahead and just try it. So we deal with a brush size. So we want to, size our brush because it is dependent on the size of the sample. So we can go up here and to our options bar and choose the side of the brush. We can increase the size, or while we're in the document, we can use the square bracket tools to increase or decrease our size. So if I'm going to get rid of some of these sparkles on this cookie, I'll try to size it so it's kind of around the size of the area that I'm working with. So I'm going to do an Alt click to copy a sample area. So when I hold down my Alt or my Option key, I get a little target icon. And this tells me at this point I'm going to sample up these pixels. So if I Alt click right around in here, and I'm paying attention to the texture of the frosting, so you always want to look at what is happening on your document. So I'll sample up right in here. And then I'll go over, and you can see underneath my cursor, I'm getting an idea of what I'm going to be pasting or painting. So if I go right here and paint, I get the crossbar indicating where I'm pulling my pixels from, and I'm seeing that I'm painting over top. Okay, so now if I let up on my cursor and I move over, see how my crossbars stay exactly equal distance from where I'm painting. This is because of the aligned feature. If I uncheck that, sample up right here again, Alt or Option click, then go over here, see where my crossbars are, right where I sampled. Now if I go here, see how it returns back to that originally placed sample. So whether you have aligned or not makes a difference on how the crossbars of where you're pulling the pixels from is going to be painted. By default, it is aligned. So some of you maybe are more familiar with what I call the Band-Aid tool, the spot healing brush, or the healing brush. Now the spot healing brush does a very similar effect to the clone tool, but in the way that it differs is that you don't have to sample up an area, rather you just paint over top, and Photoshop will intelligently look at the pixel surrounding it and try to correct it the best it can. Matching the opacity, matching the lighting, matching the coloring, everything else that's going on, the textures, all of that. So depending on what you're doing, the clone stamp tool might be your tool, or it might be the healing brush tools. Now back to the clone stamp tool, we do have a special panel that we can actually use with these clone stamp tools or with the healing brush tools. If I go under my window menu, I'm looking for my clone source panel. Here it is. So what this allows me to do is set up 5 different sample sources for use with either, like I mentioned, the clone stamp tool or the healing brush tool. So I have this one selected. I can hold down my Alt or Option key and sample up this area. Okay, then I can go to my next and I can sample up maybe the cookie part right there. So now if I go back and I paint, well, you can see what's under my cursor here. I'm sampling up from the area I first chose as my sample, and here I'm painting from the area I chose as my second sample. So you can have 5 different samples saved here in this clone source panel. So whether you use clone stamp tool or healing brush tools, they really are doing the same. It just depends on the situation, what you have happening on your photo, and you using your best judgment.